Welcome. Looking at everybody here and old faces and new faces, thank you for coming to the May meeting of the Manatee Bar Association Law Day festivities. Each year, the Manatee Bar Association celebrates Law Day during its May meeting. Each year, this association is honored to have dynamic speakers talking about the importance of the rule of law and the rule of law in this great country of ours. This May meeting is the same. We will have the Attorney General of the state of Florida here shortly. On each table is a centerpiece with many of the leaders who have spoken at prior Law Day meetings of this association, as well as national figures. Please take the time to look at those quotes that are on each of your tables. These leaders are an inspiration to all of us. For instance, several years ago, on May 5th, 2000, 14 years ago, the Manatee County Bar Association was honored to have Chesterfield Smith speak to us about the importance of being civil in the practice of law. Chesterfield has been quoted as saying, "Lawyers are in a unique position to advocate the pursuit of truth and justice, despite a societal element that perhaps too frequently has become driven by greed and revenge." Another quote of Chesterfield is, "The dominant questions for lawyers in counseling their clients should always be, is it right? Being legally permissible is not sufficient if the contemplated action is not the right thing to do." We are honored to have Chesterfield Smith Jr. here with us today. Welcome. At this time, I would ask Chief Judge Andrew Owens to come forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Steele, those were great remarks, but several of those were taken aback when you talked about old faces. If you would please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Thank you, Judge. I suppose I would include myself in the old faces category, having the gray streak clearly noticeable up front from after 4 kids. Special welcome and introduction. I'd like to collectively recognize and welcome our judges that are in attendance today. Collectively, we have Judge Owens, Judge Gilner, Judge Krug, Judge Moreland, Judge Lakin, Judge DeFuria, Judge Brownell, Judge Smith, Judge Mercurio, Judge Roberts, Judge Gallen, Judge Sniffen, Judge Ferentz, and Judge Dunnigan. Thank you for your attendance here today. In addition to our judges, we have several honored guests here with us today, and I would like to recognize and thank them for their attendance here collectively. We have former State Senator Pat Neal, Representative Jim Boyd, Representative Greg Stubbe, and Greg is also a member of the Manatee County Bar Association. Commission Chairman Larry Bussell, Chip Shore, Clerk of the Court, Sheriff Brad Stubbe. Sir. Bradenton Chief of Police Michael Radzilowski. Palmetto Chief of Police Rick Wells. Scott Westheimer, our representative for the 12th Judicial Circuit for the Florida Board of Governors. There's Scott. And Kevin Bruning, the president of the Sarasota County Bar Association. And we have Commissioner Michael Gallen, who is also a member of the Manatee Bar Association. Thank you, our honored guests. Welcome, and thank you for your attendance. At this time, I would like to give special recognition to BMO Harris Bank and like to call Jennifer Zavadil up. Jennifer? BMO Harris Bank is a 5-year sponsor of this association. And while we go through our announcements, please feel free to eat lunch as it's served. Jennifer.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you once again for inviting us to sponsor your Law Day Luncheon. My name is Jennifer Zavadil, and I'm Vice President of BMO Harris Bank at the Cortez office. 2 years ago, if you may recall, we were in the midst of our conversion to BMO Harris, and I'm happy to say that we have passed through that, and we now can offer enhanced products and services to our customers. A little history on BMO, for some of you that don't remember. We were established in 1817. BMO Financial Group is a highly diversified financial service provider based in North America, with total assets of $537 billion and approximately 45,000 employees. BMO provides a broad range of retail banking, wealth management, investment banking products, and services to more than 12 million customers. You know, as legal professionals, you are entitled to be a part of our Premier program. This program is designed to provide you with additional resources, as well as specialists who can not only help you manage your day-to-day banking, but also help you address your short and long-term financial goals. I'd like to take just a moment to introduce Kathleen Strobel. She's a mortgage banking specialist with BMO. Kathleen?
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, I just want to let all of you know that the Bank of Montreal did not have some of the financial mortgage difficulties that some of the other banks in town did. So I want to let you know, 1, we've got money to lend, and 2, we can close the deal. And with rates anywhere from 2 3/4 up to 4 1/4, we are busy. So if you ever have anybody that needs that services, please think about BMO Harris Bank. Thank you.
So in closing, I just want to, say our goal at BMO is really to provide a great customer experience, and we'd love to have the opportunity to speak with you individually. And we also hope that you'll consider us as a resource for yourself as well as your clients. Thank you once again for having us here.
Thank you, Ms. Zavadil. Again, special appreciation and thanks to BMO Harris Bank. They make events like this possible and economically feasible. At this time, we're going to move into announcements. I'll call Jeff Goethe, the president-elect, to report from the nominating committee.
Good afternoon. As required by the bylaws, the nominating committee met in April. The nominating committee consists of the current president, the president-elect, and the past president. And after considering those who expressed an interest in serving on the board, the nominating committee offers the following nominations, and these will be voted on at the June meeting. For president will be myself, Jeff Goethe, president-elect Robert Eschenfelder, secretary Paul Grondel, treasurer Andrea Johnson. 3 directors will be nominated for a 2-year term, and they are Ann Douglas, Lori Dorman, Jennifer Fowler Hermes. 1 director will be nominated to fill a 1-year slot, Alex St. Paul. We have 2 directors continuing with 1 year left in their term, Doug Peebles and Scott Reith. And our Young Lawyers Division President, who will serve on the board, will be Monica Villaverde Beck. And the immediate past president will be Steele Williams. So I'd like to thank all those who are willing to serve on the board. We worked hard this past year, and I know we'll work hard again this year and keep the good works of the association going. So please be here for our June meeting when we'll hold the elections for those officers nominated. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Some other announcements from the Young Lawyers Division. The Young Lawyers Division of the Manatee Bar Association will hold their annual meeting and election of officers on June 18th at 12 noon in the first floor of the Conference Center of the Manatee County Judicial Center. They will also be holding a social on June 19th, Thursday, at Darwin's Brewing. That's the Young Lawyers Division. Another announcement from Judge Dino Economou. He will be meeting with attorneys practicing in the guardianship area to discuss attorneys' fees and attorneys' fee issues. The meeting will be held on Monday, June 2nd at 1:30 in courtroom 8B of the Judge Lynn Silvertooth Judicial Center. That's the Sarasota County Courthouse. Another announcement. Nominations are still being accepted for the 16th Annual Manatee Bar Community Service Awards. The purpose of these awards is to highlight Bar Association members who provide service to the community through participation in organizations and activities beyond the Florida Bar and the pro bono activities of the Florida Bar. For anybody interested in making a nomination, you can get the nomination form from Sue, and the nomination form was sent out in the most recent newsletter of the Inter Alia. At this time, I would call Doug Peebles to the stand, call Doug Peebles up to talk to us about the 7th grade civics education initiative. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Recently, in the past years, the state of Florida legislature enacted laws requiring that 7th grade students be taught civics education along with some specific instructions in the Constitution and constitutional law. And as our profession and careers relies on the rule of law and the judicial branch of government, Bill of Rights, and right to attorney and fair trial and other things, the Manatee County Bar Association thought that this would be a wonderful opportunity for the local bar association to participate in the community, to give back to the community, and to reach out to the students in the community. And so we embarked upon a civics education outreach program where the local members of the Bar Association would go into the middle schools, in the 7th grade specifically, and present some civics education. Myself, along with co-committee chair Greg Hagopian, coordinated and organized the program. And I'm happy to report to you that the program was wildly successful. We were received by the Manatee County school system very graciously. We were able to get into 6 of the middle schools. We presented to over 33 individual classes, and some of them were combined classes of several classes together, and reached out to over 855 local 7th grade students in our community. And we also had great participation throughout our bar association from numerous members, and if I've left anybody's name off, I apologize in advance. We had Jeff Goethe, Doris Spinell, James Lynch, Judge Gallen, along with his son Michael Gallen, who shared a presentation, Greg Hagopian, Jim Minix, Connie Medeiros Jacobs, Brian Eiton, Judge Roberts, Adam Tabruge, Daniela Hogue, Talise McKay, Stephen White, myself, Jennifer Fowley Hermes, Nikhil Joshi, and last but not least, Jay Horn. And again, I would like to thank everybody that participated. It was a great success, and it's something that probably would be nice for us to repeat in the future and do again. And you should all be commended. I think the students, there was a lot of positive feedback from the schools and the students. They really seemed to like the program. You did a community service and furthered your profession. I thank you all for your participation.
Thank you, Doug, for that report. Every member of the association and a member of this community should feel very proud of the work of the Civics Outreach Program of the association. It was such a success. And in the future, there'll be opportunities for everybody to participate and continue to participate in that program. At this time, we will present the Jim Slater Award for professionalism in the practice of criminal law. I would ask Judge Diana Moreland to please come forward.
Today, I have great joy to stand before this honorable member of the bars, as well as the distinguished guests that we have here today, to present the Jim Slater Award for 2014. I want everybody to understand that this is the single award presented by the judges of the 12th Judicial Circuit to a person who embodies professionalism in the practice of criminal law. To appreciate the honor, one only needs to look at the recipients who have come before today's recipient. They've included Rebecca Wilson, Peter Belmont, Carolyn Schlemmer, Leanne McCurry, Bruce Lee, Adam Tabrouge, Jim Dearman, and Elliot Metcalf. Part of my joy today stems from having had the privilege of working with the man for whom the award is named, as well as the person who's about to receive the award. As many of you may know, Jim Slater was the Chief Assistant Public Defender in Manatee County who died all too soon on the 26th of May, 2005. During his period as Chief Assistant, he was charged with the responsibility of trying the capital murder cases in the 12th Judicial Circuit. And if that wasn't enough, he also had to juggle running the office here in the Manatee County and all the attorneys. And let me tell you, that's not an easy job. The more amazing thing about Jim Slater is that he always did this with seamless professionalism. I've always found that professionalism in the legal sense is a commitment to develop one's skills and to do so within the standards of the highest ethics. It's a willingness to subordinate your own self-interest in the pursuit of the fundamental goals of the public. Our awarded recipient this year understands that professionalism is a wide umbrella of values encompassing competence, civility, legal ethics, integrity, commitment to the rule of law, to justice, and to the public good. I can say this about our recipient because I've had the privilege of watching him when I was a practicing attorney, of having him be the state attorney division chief to my division when I was on the criminal bench, and when I discuss him among my judicial colleagues. I can attest that during my 4 years on the criminal bench, the recipient's commitment to professionalism meant I never had to ask for him to appear. He was at all times willing to cover, and he was inevitably prepared and then some. In addition to being the consummate professional, it's also my understanding from a confidential source that he is very committed to the rule of law, so much so that he will not cross Manatee Avenue when all his peers are putting pressure on him. He will not bow and jaywalk. And I say that says a lot for the man. Ladies and gentlemen, our recipient has worked for the U.S. Department of Treasury, U.S. Department of Justice, Florida State University College of Law, and fortunately for all of us, for the office of the State Attorney's Office of the 12th Judicial Circuit. He has risen from a line attorney to the role of division chief and special intake. It is with great pleasure that I humbly present the 2014 Jim Slater Award to Brian Knighton of the State Attorney's Office.
You just put a trial lawyer at a podium with a captive audience. In all seriousness, I am honored to receive this award. Professionalism has been defined as the skill, good judgment, and polite behavior that is expected of a person who is trained to do a job well. And for those of you who knew Jim Slater, that sums him up to a T. He was the consummate professional. He was a skilled lawyer. He was a person of solid judgment. And he was an advocate who was simultaneously zealous and polite. And I'm honored that members of our legal community have seen me as a person who aspires to be like Jim Slater. Jim Slater was a professional who practiced criminal law like the prior recipients, whose names bear mentioning again: Elliot Metcalf, Jim Dearman, Adam TeBruge, Bruce Lee, who has been my mentor for these last 2 decades, Leanne McCurry, Carolyn Schlemmer, Peter Belmont, and Rebecca Wilson. What do all 9 of us have in common? Quite frankly, we're lucky. We didn't just find jobs. Each of us found his or her own vocation. And for those of you who took Latin like myself, it comes from the Latin vocare, which means to call. So we are people for whom the criminal law is our calling. And you know, the criminal law isn't glamorous. It doesn't involve money. But what it involves is often people at their worst. And the stakes in the criminal law are as high as they can be. We're talking about the liberty of people, of our citizens. We're talking about matters of life and of death. Now, those who practice the criminal law certainly strike hard blows. And in fact, the lawyer exhibiting true professionalism in the criminal law does strike with those hard blows, but never with foul blows. I learned this from Earl Moreland and from Ed Bronsky. And I'm here today because Mr. Moreland took a chance in hiring a 28-year-old kid with a full head of hair and not a stitch of gray. Took a chance, and I embarked upon my calling. And Ed Bronsky has allowed me to continue to pursue what I love. But really, I wouldn't be here at all but for the support of my wife. She's been with me through thick and thin, through some really rough times, and to some glorious heights. Thank you, Liz. Thank you all.
Thank you. Congratulations, Brian. Just special recognition that Chesterfield Smith Jr. is now with us. Thank you. At this time, I would like to call Judge Gilbert Smith to present our speaker. Thank you.
Hello to all of you, and it's nice to be back up here again talking to this association, which I do love, and I do really feel a strong attachment to. We are so excited to have the Florida Attorney General here today to speak to us about her initiatives and the importance of the rule of law on this Law Day event. As Attorney General, she works every day to protect our right to vote, to have our children safe, our right to be safe in our homes and communities, and our right to conduct business in a safe environment. Now, General Bondi is a fourth-generation Floridian, and she probably likes Florida history, which might be important a little later today. She graduated from Lato King High School, went on to graduate from the University of Florida, and then to Stetson University College of Law. She grew up in Temple Terrace, where her father was mayor of that city. She became, after law school, an assistant state attorney for the 13th Judicial Circuit and became an outstanding attorney handling some of the more difficult cases and serious cases. Now, when General Bondi was elected in 2008 as the 37th Attorney General, she became the first female to hold that position. She is not only an outstanding leader in our state, but also in our nation on protecting the rights of citizens against the criminal element that has preyed on our children, the weak, the disadvantaged, and the elderly. Please join me now in welcoming Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi to the Manatee County Bar Association Law Day Luncheon.
Please sit down. Thank you, Judge. And for those of you who don't know the connection with Judge Smith, his cousin Chet Smith runs my entire general civil litigation portion, a huge portion of our office. So we have almost 1,400 employees. What Chet, after this session, coming up on 400 lawyers soon. So we did well this session. We've been working very, very hard. And where's Brian in the back of the room? Congratulations. I also was a career prosecutor, for those of you who don't know, for 18 years, and then I lost my mind and ran for Attorney General. I feel like I'm going on 88 years old after 4 years in office, and thank you to all of our great law enforcement officers. We get credit in Tallahassee for a lot of things, sheriff, chiefs, that you do. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. And I'm going to digress, but thank you. And Ed Brodsky, I mean, you and Earl I've known forever, and thank you for what you do as state attorney. And Greg Stevie and Jim Boyd, my dear friends in Tallahassee. These guys are up there. They're not having fun up there. When they're up there, they're working. And they work so hard for you. And you should be very, very proud that we have so many great elected officials from this part of our beautiful state. So this is kind of a second home to me because we have a beach house in Longboat Key where I've been coming since I was born. And sadly, though, I just inherited it because we just lost my dad to leukemia less than a year ago. But I haven't been able to go back there yet. So that's where his ashes will be someday. But anyway, so I loved being a prosecutor. That was my dream. I loved every second of it. And how Brian thanked Earl, and then Ed, that's kind of how I was. Bill James hired me as a young prosecutor. I actually interned at the state attorney's office, didn't even know if I wanted to practice law. And when you do that, the Supreme Court certifies you. So I had 4 jury trials, and of course they give you the sorriest ones, the interns. I think I won 1 maybe out of the 4. But I had 4 jury trials when I was still in law school, never wanted to do anything else in my life. And then 18 years later, ran for this crazy office. And you know you can make a difference one-on-one as a prosecutor because you're dealing with victims every day. You're dealing with law enforcement every day. But you don't know if you can on such a huge level. And that was the most frightening thing. Change is hard, of course, but that was the most frightening thing to me was, can you make a difference? We're now soon to be the 3rd largest state in the country. And I learned very quickly that you can. And traveling the state of Florida, I learned that 7 Floridians were dying a day because of the oxycodone abuse in our state. And that was outrageous, and it had to stop. Of the top get this, doctors, and I'm engaged to a good one, but of the top, he's an internist and ophthalmologist, and they're good pain management doctors, but of the top 100 oxycodone dispensers in the entire country, 98 of them lived in our state. Come on, that's ridiculous. So we started a campaign, didn't we, guys? And for 7 years, they had tried unsuccessfully to pass legislation. I don't know why, but all I know is I must have said 1,000 times, we have 7 kids dying a day. And we fought a long and hard battle, and we were just blessed to have a great legislature to work with and a great governor. And so now we have some of the toughest pill mill legislation in the entire country. Of those 98 oxycodone docs dispensers in Florida, now you know how many of them live here? 0. 0. And that's thanks to... Thank these gentlemen sitting here at this table. Thank your prosecutor. Thank your representatives. Thank your law enforcement, because they work tirelessly for us. And I can tell you one thing, the governor and I try not to miss a law enforcement funeral. And I just had to speak at Trooper Chelsea Richards' service, and broke my heart, you know, and the governor did veto the speed limit bill, and I was all for it because we were sitting there. She was working a traffic accident in the middle of the day and hit by a car, and it was just a tragedy. But we have gone to countless law enforcement funerals, killed in the line of duty. So whenever you see a law enforcement officer, please thank them. Even if they're giving you a speeding ticket, seriously thank them, because we have to appreciate what they do for us every day and their families. So that's it. And I love talking to lawyers because you kind of get it. It's nice. But one of the main things my office does, we do Florida's Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act, of course, which many of you know. We protect consumers, and we try to create an even playing field for our great businesses here in Florida. And if you don't know anything about the Florida Cabinet, we're all about bringing businesses to our state and keeping them here. But part of doing that is making Florida the safest place to work, live, and raise a family. And that's what we are all committed as a team to doing. And I can tell you that the oxycodone deaths have dropped. I was shocked when that report came out, or the prescription drug deaths, oxycodone deaths had dropped 52%, that first report. And I'll tell you why. That's because it's everybody working together. And I'm all over the country. I work with my counterparts all over the country. There are 56 of us. And that's the one thing. People cannot believe how well we work together in Florida. They cannot believe that our sheriffs and our chiefs and DEA and ATF and our U.S. attorneys and my statewide prosecutors and the state attorneys, how well we all work together. I now have an office within the Attorney General's office for law enforcement and for the prosecutors when they're up there during session, because they used to sit on hard marble benches in a hallway, which was ridiculous. So we all work as a team, and that's why I think we're able to accomplish so much, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to accomplish a lot more. We also prosecute Medicaid fraud, as you know, which is just crazy, outrageous. When I took office, my Medicaid fraud unit was based in Tallahassee. I have 11 offices, and I was down in my Miami office, and I was walking through the office. Lights were off, offices were empty, and I learned that office was based in Tallahassee. So guess where they are now? Miami, ground zero for Medicaid fraud. My chief investigator's down there, and we have been making huge cases. And if you don't get my newsletter, please go on myfloridalegal.com. It's not political at all. It's just very factual, and it tells what we do in cases that affect you, and cases that we make in consumer warnings and warnings to businesses, and I'm going to talk about, and warnings to law firms of what to beware and what to look for. But as you know, and I'm very proud of defending Florida's Constitution, and I wouldn't regret one single thing I did fighting Obamacare. And I'm very proud of that. We also have sued the EPA, and I don't care what party affiliation you are, but if you have any land in the state, if you have a business, this beautiful country club where we're sitting would have been out of business had it been for the numeric nutrient criteria. They were holding Florida to higher water standards than any state in the entire country. And we sued the EPA, and we won, and we're very proud of that, and we will continue to do so to protect our state and our state's rights. the national mortgage settlement. You get hit early on with a lot of stuff, and that was crazy. We were on the executive council for that. Other than California, California received the most money, as they should. My counterpart Kamala Harris there, who is a friend of mine, she received the most money, as she should, and Florida received the second amount. It was a $25 billion national settlement. Landmark settlement with all of the 5 largest mortgage servicers. We've met with Joe Smith, the monitor, on multiple occasions to be sure that the banks are in compliance and that they're doing the best they can. Let me give you just a few numbers that Joe Smith filed earlier this month. Nearly 92,000 distressed Florida borrowers have received $9.2 billion in credited relief as a result of the guarantee that Florida, we separately negotiated that guarantee. California and Florida, we negotiated that separately, and that was really important to me. That was about a $4 billion guarantee, and we've received over twice that. If you hear people say, oh, well, these are just people that lost their homes to short sales, that's not true. $4.5 billion kept people in their homes. $1.4 billion helped people refinance their homes. Something I fought long and hard for that was very important to me was, what about all those people who are working so hard, saving all their money to pay their mortgage every month? They're paying their mortgage on time, but they're underwater. How many Floridians did that affect? And if you had an interest rate, it's been so, I think it was 5.1 or higher, you qualified for a loan mod under that. And so we fought long and hard in Florida to get that loan mod for people who were paying their mortgages on time. And that was very important to us. We also received, as a state, $334 million that went in an escrow account under my name, which is very frightening, straight to Florida. Now, Kamala Harris, my counterpart in California, received a bit more than that, went into an escrow account, and Jerry Brown went in and raided every single penny of that money, and it went straight to California's tremendous budget deficit. That did not happen in our state. We worked with the legislature, we worked with the governor, and that money, the majority of that money, is going to legal aid programs throughout the state. In fact, last year, we provided close to $500,000 for legal aid groups right here in Manatee County. And you're going to get another $1 million. In 2015, we have another $1 million coming your way for legal aid. I think sometimes the Florida bar has been a dirty word, and it's not. People criticize lawyers until you need one. And so we're doing everything we can to change that perception in Tallahassee, because we have a lot of great lawyers, especially here in this room today. And so we've, if you have any, I'm going to pitch this to, nonprofits, anything, we're always getting settlement money from these huge antitrust settlement cases we're settling. If you have any, like Habitat for Humanity, any nonprofits, bring them to us and let us know, and we will put you on a list to hopefully help you receive some funds from settlement money if we believe it applies. So we're always trying to give money to worthy causes, which is one of the very, very positive things. Some of that other $334 million went to housing programs, it went to counseling, it went to Habitat for Humanity. We knew we needed affordable housing, but these people are about to get kicked out of their houses, and they had nowhere to go, and they had nowhere to turn. And with some of the banks, they did not have one point of contact, and that was something that was also very important to me. You could call 20 times and get 20 different people on the phone. How frustrating is that? So we've been working with Monitor Joe Smith. He's been great. We know we have a long way to go with compliance, but we have a team in my office, and we're dedicated to bringing consumers the relief they need under the settlement. And I just want to give you one example. We received an issue. It was a woman in Palm Beach. She had been laid off 3 times from 2008 to 2010. She fell behind on her mortgage. One of the banks filed a foreclosure in 2010, and she received approval for a loan mod in 2011. She made her first 2 payments on time without event, but the bank sent the 3rd payment back to her and said that despite her $35,000 in savings to put towards arrears on the mortgage, they were going to take her home. So at that point, she contacted our office. And we just really on the side, didn't we, set this up to help people because we knew people weren't equipped to do it on their own. So she contacted our office, and we worked closely with this bank. They lost her paperwork, come to find out, 5 times. And so she couldn't even find a legal aid attorney to take it. I'm sure if it had been in Manatee, she could have. But anyway, we worked with her. She didn't contact us until a sale date had been set on her home. This woman had been in her home forever. So she contacted us, and what we did, we got her a single point of contact. She was able to get her loan mod, and she's in her home. So those are the type of things that we do and we can continue to do. Right now, I want to make a pitch. We're fighting with the FDA, and all you law enforcement officers need to hear this. And let me tell you, this is a bipartisan effort. You should have heard this phone call with approximately 30 attorneys general from throughout the country. We did everything in our power to get rid of oxycodone, and there's a drug called Zohydro. It's 10 times stronger, approximately, than oxycodone, and the FDA just released this on the market. It's unbelievable. They have an advisory panel that recommended 11-2, do not release this. Another pharmaceutical, they're months away from coming out with a tamper-proof version of it, which is time-released. You can't crush it, you can't snort it, it'll work. Yet they chose to release Zohydro. So get ready for that, all my friends in law enforcement, and we're going to be fighting them. We're still fighting them, but it's strength in numbers. And you know, the part you hear in the news is the very small partisan part, but we do a lot together, especially on this war on drugs, and we will continue to fight this war on drugs. Yeah, after we passed the pill mill legislation, I sat at my desk and I thought, wow, we really did make a difference. And this is exactly how it happened. And my phone rang, and it was someone from St. Joe's Hospital in Tampa, where I'm from, and they said there's another problem, the babies. Babies are being born addicted to prescription drugs. Their moms are taking this stuff when they're pregnant, so of course, everybody said, oh, she's trying to take babies away from their mothers. Of course not. We're trying to keep them together. I'm not a fan of a task force. I think you can study something to death and create a beautiful product and put it on your shelf and do nothing with it. But we knew we had to get numbers on this issue because there weren't any. So we did form a task force. There were 15 of us. We brought Representative Young, Senator Negron to the table. We brought everybody who was against us to the table, the treatment providers, DCF, law enforcement, FDLE, the sheriffs, the doctors. And it was unbelievable bringing everybody to the table. We completed our task in 6 months and actually have spent the rest of the time implementing it. As a result, we got funding, Greg, how much? I think about $8.9 million. And we have, I believe, over 700 women in treatment beds. And the legislature just renewed that this next session. So that's 1,400 lives that we saved. So we're very, very proud of that. That's called neonatal abstinence syndrome. And just from a cost perspective, St. Joe's, they had to expand their NICU. And think about the tremendous cost to the taxpayers to accommodate these babies. They're born addicted to prescription drugs. So hopefully we're saving babies' lives and we're able to keep them with their mothers. I'm co-chair of the National Substance Abuse Committee with my counterpart Jack Conway from Kentucky. I've moderated congressional panels on the war on drugs and will continue to do that. Synthetic drugs, and I left my packets at home. I bring emptied out packets, but everywhere I go, if you please go on myfloridalegal.com, and all of you have huge firms and businesses, just take a snapshot of that page and put it on your website, because parents need to see what this junk looks like. They're in little silver packets, and now the marketing, they've changed it. It's called Scooby-Doo. It's called, the Seven Dwarfs. It's called cotton candy. You open it, you smell it, you touch it. It feels like cotton candy. It looks like cotton candy. I just spoke to a large group of women at Moffitt Hospital to thank them for what they do. The woman sitting next to me, I had the packet, the emptied out packet, Sheriff, by the way. I was taking the full ones with me, and I learned the hard way. So I had the emptied out packet. And she said, can I see that? And she started shaking. It was the one with Scooby-Doo on it. And she said her 14-year-old, now I don't know the age, but it was a child. Her child had come home with that in his backpack the week before. So thanks to our great law enforcement officers, it's now illegal, but unscrupulous store clerks are selling it under the table still. They're selling it under the counter because it is so extremely profitable. What it is, it's synthetic acid, LSD, heroin. When you hear Miley Cyrus sing about Molly's, it's not the old ecstasy. What it is it's the purest form of ecstasy laced with synthetic heroin. And it's killing kids. They're dropping dead. So please educate your children. Please educate your coworkers. And I wish I had those packets to show you because you've probably seen them in convenience stores. But thanks to our sheriffs, they're now under the table. One thing I can do as Attorney General is I have, people call it a tremendous amount of power, and it's not. It's a tremendous amount of responsibility. With the stroke of a pen, I can make something illegal until it goes through session the following year. And I have only exercised that authority with these synthetic drugs. Because what these are, they're creative chemists. They started in Asia. It became so profitable. Now they're making it right here in our state. And they're changing up the compounds to make it legal. So I think I've signed 4, 5, 6 emergency orders, and of course it's passed unanimously through session each time, and we've outlawed over 131 compounds. When we started doing this, I called Sam Olens, my counterpart in Georgia, the AG in Georgia, and I said, Sam, get ready, this stuff's coming to Georgia. He said, yeah, right, Pam. He hadn't heard of it. Then I get the call a year later, what's this stuff called? Can I get the compounds? So it's moving throughout the country, but at least we're ridding Florida of it. Human trafficking. People don't want to believe that human trafficking exists. If you saw the movie Taken with Liam Neeson, that's just what it is, except the dad doesn't come in at the end of the day and save the day. Of the calls to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, Florida ranks 3rd in the entire country. Unreal. It's unreal. It's domestic servitude. The majority of it are young girls being sold into the sex trade. So they're kidnapped. They're taken from their homes. They're immediately addicted to drugs. And I can tell you we have so many cases pending in our state right now. You wouldn't believe how disgusting it is. So we knew we had to do something to stop it. So the first session, thanks to our great lawmakers, we have some tough laws. Gave my statewide prosecutors the ability to go up on a wiretap, which we did, made a huge case. One of those victims actually was beaten beyond recognition. Taken to the ER by her captor, scared to death, went right back to him. So these cases are alive and thriving in our state, but not for long. We knew we needed an all-hands-on-deck approach, so we reached out. Actually, they reached out to us. Where do you take a little girl to traffic her? A truck stop. So the head of the trucking industry came to us. And we developed a toolkit for the truckers. And they are now our eyes and ears. How cool is that? They are calling in cases when they see suspicious things happening at truck stops. We're working with the convenience stores. We're working with the hotels. We started a campaign, you'll see billboards all over the state, from instant message to instant nightmare, because parents need to realize, technology is a great thing, but it's also a horrible thing with kids on the internet. And we're going all over the state getting kids to sign pledges with their parents because they're getting recruited off the internet. And if you have to, I'm sorry, your child has no right to privacy on their iPhone or on their computer. Your child. You need to monitor what they do because they think they're talking to a 12-year-old and it could be a 42-year-old pedophile. So please monitor that. So we have an awareness campaign out there for that. This session, we are very, very blessed, thanks to our legislature once again, and we have a statewide council on human trafficking. So we have a lot of money allocated, and we may be one of the first states in the entire country to have a government-run true safe house. I'm going to chair that council. We're going to have, I think, 18 members on it. So get ready for that, because you can take these victims, and people think that a lot of these victims are undocumented immigrants, and a lot of them are, and they are just as much a victim. But the majority of them are runaways. They're kids who have been bounced from foster home to foster home. They're kids who have aged out of foster care and have nowhere to go. And they're winding up on the streets. They're winding up in strip clubs. They're addicting them to drugs. It's the worst thing that you can even imagine. The ER doctors came to us and said, We want to help because we think we're seeing victims of human trafficking in the ER with their captors. Do you know that, Sheriff, yet, that we're doing that? They came to us, and they were so excited. We're developing a plan with them as to what to look for and how to realize that and where to report it and how to turn that in. So we've been working well with them on that. I just got back from Mexico, hence the leg gashed open and the broken, busted finger from walking up. And they took 5 of us went. Kamala Harris, my counterpart from California, Catherine Cortez Masto, my counterpart from Nevada, Gary King, New Mexico, and John Suthers, my counterpart from Colorado. The 5 of us went, and it changed our lives. We did very important things. We worked. We signed memos of understanding on money laundering with the banking industry at the highest levels. We met with Jesus Karam, the Attorney General for the country of Mexico. We met with all of our state counterparts. But one of the best things we did, and this is something that Mexico's doing right, a safe house. They drove. They would only allow the 5 of us to go. And this was not paid for by taxpayer expense, by the way. They took the 5 of us, I can't say where, but out in the middle of nowhere. And if you see Breaking Bad, I call my fiance. I go, I'm going to wind up dead, cut up in a desert somewhere from where they're taking us. But it was so worth it. And all of a sudden, we go behind these gated walls, so you think you're nowhere, and you are in the middle of the most beautiful environment. And we spent the day and the injury was walking up a cobblestone path in heels. But we spent the day with victims of human trafficking, and these are babies having babies. And this is called, what we're focusing not now as attorneys general. We stay, we can do so much in our own state. Then we go countrywide, and now we've started transnational crime. And we met with these victims, and just to tell you the story of one little girl, I wish I had the pictures here to show you, but she was 16 when she got pregnant. Of course, they swiped her off the street. She was immediately addicted to drugs. She was violated thousands of times. She got pregnant. She was violated with her baby in the room. She learned they were sending her to our country to traffic her. So what do when they send a victim to our country? They kill her baby. That's what caused a mother to escape. And she is now in a beautiful, safe place, getting the drug treatment she needs, getting the education she needs. She's with her child. I could tell you 10 stories of that. But we developed a great relationship with the prosecutors there. And so we are bringing in July prosecutors from Mexico to Tampa, working with my friend Lee Bentley, who's our U.S. attorney here in the Middle District, and we're training them on cyber crimes. So hopefully, and now extraditing, by the way, criminals out of Mexico, call me. We have a direct line, which is very difficult to do, as you know. So we're working very hard on that, but you can make a difference. I guess that was a very long version of you can make a difference, and we're working very hard. And I am doing everything in my power to get that Marine out of Mexico, if you're aware of that. He's been there way too long. He made a wrong turn. Just because of the relationships I developed, I was able to pick up the phone and talk to Jesus Karam's office. He doesn't speak English, but his number 2 does, and she'll be here in Florida with me in July. So we are keeping a very close eye on him. I think you're going to hear reports he's getting out today. I don't think he is. I think it'll be more like June, but I'm going to be there for the hearing in June. They have a 911 tape that Duncan Hunter out of California got. So hopefully we'll get our Marine out of Mexico. Data breach. That was a very important bill for us this session, and thank you again to our legislature for that. And Trish Connors with my office had, and I think Chet, you were part of this, had the idea for this bill before we heard about the data breach at Michael's, at Neiman, at Target, and now eBay. Look at eBay. My gosh. I mean, all these businesses are being breached. So we passed legislation that if you are breached, and by the way, we're holding ourselves accountable too. If you're a governmental agency and you're breached, you have to report it to our office within a certain amount of time, because we have to make sure consumers are notified to protect them, and there are penalties in place in case you don't do that. One thing, because you all have law firms, business-to-business scams, my public service announcement. Business-to-business scams, have you heard of those yet? Okay, there are about 3 big boiler rooms throughout the state, and what they're doing is they're contacting your businesses, and they're saying, most of you have law firms, whether you're an auto dealer, a law firm, any type of business, law firms, they're saying, you took out this yellow page ad, or you took out this ad, and they look so real, and they know what the limits are before someone has to sign off, so it's not your accounting department's fault. They're sending them straight through to your accounting department, and they're paying these bills. And it's costing tens of thousands of dollars each month for our businesses. So please go back and talk to your accounting folks. And if you find any of these fake invoices, send them through to us so we can fix it. I always say I can't fix something unless I know it's broken. If you have an issue, if you have a problem, if there's anything I can help you with, come to me. Our door is always open. That's why we're here, to help you. So thank you for everything that you do as attorneys and members of the bar, and congratulations on a great law day. Thank you for having me.
General Bondi, could I ask you to come right back up to the podium? We have a little gift for you, and I hope you appreciate this from being a fourth-generation Floridian. It's 4 books of local history, Manatee County history. One of them is my favorite. I won't tell you which one.
Did you happen to author it?
Yeah,
Will the
I did.
author sign it for me?
I did.
You did? You know what I wanted to say, and this is how I lost my dad a year ago. I wanted to say I can't wait for my dad to read these, but thank you very much. These will have a very, very special place, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, General Bondi, for your remarks and all your efforts up in Tallahassee. Just to conclude the Law Day meeting, thank you everybody for attending. Again, special thanks to our sponsor, BMO Harris Bank, for making this event possible. Thank you for an appreciation to Manatee Educational TV for filming this session of Law Day of the Manatee County Bar Association. If you want to see this later on, the viewing channels and schedules can be found on their website, metvweb.com. Second to last announcement, special recognition to the Law Day Planning Committee. That was Judge Gilbert Smith, thank you. Susan Malucci, Scott Reith, Paul Grondell, Sean Flynn, new daddy Sean Flynn, Andrea Johnson, and Janelle Esposito. The last announcement is the next meeting is June 25th. That will be our annual meeting of election of officers and installation of officers, and the presentation of the 16th Annual Community Service Awards. There's no meeting in July. Any further announcements out there? We're adjourned. Thank you for coming.
All right, General Bondi, you being a fourth-generation Floridian have such a different perspective than so many other public officials who've seen this state change over many, many years. So let me ask you some questions with respect to that, with respect to issues that you brought up in your talk today, such as trafficking, what a problem it is for the local communities, and how you're working with law enforcement.
Well, we have great law enforcement officers, and I was a career prosecutor before I became Attorney General, so I know what great state attorneys like Ed Brodsky we have here, and our great sheriff and our police chiefs, and our great judges who do so much to protect us and keep us safe. And yeah, I'm born and raised in Florida, and we have the greatest state in the nation, no doubt in my mind.
And you've seen the changes because of so many people moving to Florida. That problem that occurred many, many years ago and then grew was these pill mills. And the work that you've done on that has been tremendous for the local communities because how much it protects children.
And there was a young woman down here, her name was Brandy Mishad from Sarasota. She was 18 years old, and before I even met her parents, I cut her picture out of the newspaper and had it on my desk as my inspiration to stop pill mills in the state of Florida.
And now they're moving on to other types of drugs, synthetic drugs, that I know your
Synthetic
office
drugs.
is involved with.
Absolutely, and parents, please, they're in little foil packets. They're marketed as Scooby-Doo, as cotton candy, as the Seven Dwarfs, but they're targeting our children. And what it really is it's synthetic heroin, acid, LSD, and it's so profitable that now that we've outlawed it, they're selling it under the store counters by unscrupulous store clerks. So.
One of the things that, whether it's the drugs or the human trafficking, something you've gotten into recently was cyber stalking, the cyber communication that is ingrained with all of that, with the youth and with others, I suppose.
Absolutely, and General McCollum, he started a great cyber program at the Attorney General's office, and we've carried that on. Our investigators are now part of FDLE because it's gotten so big, but we've started a program called From Instant Message to Instant Nightmare, warning parents about the dangers of children using the internet. And I say your child has no right to privacy on the internet or on their phone, because a child thinks they're talking to another 12-year-old child, but they could be talking to a 42-year-old pedophile.
You're correct.
And it's so very frightening. So parents need to just have that dialogue with kids. And if a child thinks they're talking to a new child who they've never met, they just need to go to their mom and dad and say, hey, can you check this, my new friend out? That's all they need to do.
That's right. One of the things I've seen as a judge, and I know you saw it as a prosecutor, was the rise and the problem of domestic violence.
Horrible.
And your office has probably gotten involved in that sort of violence too. There's just so much of it.
Absolutely. Domestic violence continues to be a horrible problem throughout our country, and we've seen lately, look at the domestic violence murders around our country.
Right.
And, sadly, it's about empowering men, and most of the victims are women. I mean, of course, some are men, but empowering the women of domestic violence that they can leave and they can get away. And in Tampa, we have a safe house called the Spring of Tampa Bay, and I know you have one down here. And that's what's so very important, letting these victims and their children know that they have a safe place to go, that they will be protected. Bullying is another problem.
And we see that as cyberbullying.
And, I was just going to say, really, I guess bullying always existed, kids being picked on, but now with these cell phones, with the anonymity of Facebook and social media, kids are being bullied even more, and kids are committing suicide over it. And at Facebook, they've been great corporate partners. If they see bullying, they pull it down right away. But you can send something under the condition of anonymity and be very bold, but you are causing permanent scars to these children's lives.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for being the Attorney General of the state of Florida. You're doing an outstanding job, and I know you will in the future.
Thank you, Judge,
Okay.
and thank you for everything that you do.
All right.
Thank you.